Introductions and courtesy. Introductions and courtesy. What's your name? My name is John. What's your first name? My first name is Beer. How do you spell your last name? John. John. Jons. John. Jones. What's your friend name? His name is John Schmidt. John and I are all friends. Are you John brothers? No, I'm not. This is Mr. John. How do you do, Mr. and Mrs. John? This is Mr. John Smith. Very pleased to meet you. What's your name? My name is John. What's your first name? My first name is Beer. How do you spell your last name? Jones. Jones. What's your friend name? His name is John Smith. John and I are all friends. Are you brothers? No, I'm not. This is Mr. John. How do you do? Mrs. John, this is Mr. John Smith. Very pleased to meet you. Questions and answer. What's your name? My name is John. I'm Beer John. What's your first name? My first name is Marta. I'm a student. How do you spell your last name? Schmidt. Smith. What's your friend name? His name is Paul Johnson. How do you spell your friend last name? Johnson. Johnsson. Your friend name is John, isn't it? Yes, Beer John. And I are all friends. Are you Fred brother? No, I'm not. This is Mr. John. How do you do, Mr. John? Mrs. John, this is Mr. John Smith. Very pleased to meet you, Mrs. Smith. Mr. Smith. What's your name? My name is Harrison. Your first name is Fred, isn't it? Yes, it is. My name is Fred Harrison. What's your friend name? His name is Smith. His first name is John. Are you John, brother? No, I'm not. My brother's name is Henry. Whose book are these? Are they yours, Harry? No, they aren't. Those books are John. Who is that man over there? That's Fred Harrison. He's an engineer. Hello, what's your name? Are you a student? Are you a teacher? Are you an engineer? Hello, what's your name? Are you a student? Are you a teacher? Are you an engineer? My name is John. My name is Smith. My name is Green. My name is Harrison. My name is Johnson. I'm an engineer. There's a man over there. What's his first name? What's his last name? My last name is John. I'm an engineer. I'm a teacher. I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. I'm a farmer. My last name is John. His last name is John. Her last name is John. Our last name is John. Their last name is John. What's your name? It's time to begin. What's your first name? What's his name? What's her name? How do you spell your last name? How do you spell his name? How do you spell her name? How do you spell their name? I don't understand how do you spell your last name. Spell his last name, her last name, their last name, your friend name, Beer last name, Jack last name, your friend last name. I don't understand. Are you John brothers? Are you John sister? Are you John fathers? Are you John mother? Are you John wife? Are you John aunt? Is Mrs. Brown brother? Is Mrs. Brown father? Is Mrs. Brown husband? Is Mrs. Brown friend? Do you know Mrs. Brown? Do you know Fred? I'm Fred's sister. I'm Fred's wife. John and I are all friends. Our brothers and sisters. Do you know John? How do you spell your first name? How do you spell your last name? I know John brother. Is his father? and his father, and his uncle, and his cousin. How do you spell your father, your uncle, your cousin, your friends, your husband, first name? Is it Beer? B-I-R-R. Mrs. John, this is Mr. John Smith. This is Frank Harrison. This is Paul Johnson. This is my family. How do you do? Very pleased to meet you. Very happy to meet you. I'm very happy to know you. I'm very glad to know you. How do you do? It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm pleased to meet you. Very pleased to meet you, Mrs. Smith. Mr. Smith. How do you do, Mr. Smith? It's a pleasure to meet you. John father. John uncle. John cousin. John cousin. John family. I'm very glad to know you. I'm very glad to see you. I'm very glad to meet you. I don't know your name. We don't know your name. They don't know your name. She doesn't know your name. He doesn't know your name. I don't know how do you spell your name. I don't understand. John and I are old friends. John and I are good friends.